Well, unfortunately, we got to be done with the shop talk, because not only were we on the interstate, we are in the express lane heading to the hospital to meet our script doctor. So let's get into it.
Is anyone a doctor?
Zach, this week's show I sent you ahead of time.
Yes,
because
it's a little bit more shop talk, barely ahead of time.
Okay, that's true. Well, because I had it picked out
as I was setting up the recording equipment. You were like, "Hey, this is going to be pretty wild."
So I knew the show is called The Master. It's on NBC, tragically cut short after one season. The thing that's different about this show is that, and I know that I've been saying this for all of these Saving 1984 shows, but this one I actually think sounds like a good show. Mm-hmm. Like, unlike the original premise of Script Doctor, where it was just like, wow, this is a very stupid premise. Why would they make this? Mm-hmm. Now we're into a bunch of shows that I actually do think were tragically cut short. Like, maybe I'm just losing my mind. I don't know. But
and if you want to like kind of I think
there's a lot of premise.
So yes, and I think that someone at the very least, at least one person, it might be you for all I know. One person at least very much agrees with you, because this Wikipedia for this show was 13 episodes is thorough. It is Henry David
There's so much plot.
Yeah, well, it's
Henry David Thoreau. Well, let's get into some of the I'll run through the highlights.
Let's go ahead and give the audience a bit of a, what's on the menu tonight.
Okay. So The Master follows the character John McAllister, an American veteran who stayed in Japan following World War II and became a ninja master. Spoilers, probably going to get rid of him being American. Because that does come up later as like a weird thing where they're like, he was fighting too many Japanese people, and even for the 80s, it seemed racist. I was like, why don't we just not make him American? How about we just cut that whole American angle? Because it is weird. Anyway, so he is I'm not just going to read the Wikipedia because I actually know this one because I read it all already. So he is an American who stays in Japan, but it seems like he fought in the Korean War also. I don't know. That's unclear because there's more Korea stuff later. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he stays in Japan after World War II, becomes a ninja master, and then as he gets older, I don't know if it's exactly related to this event, but there's two events that coincide. One, he gets a letter from a daughter he never knew he had, who lives in America. Cool. Because he had like a 2-month affair with this woman, and gets a letter from her. And nothing in the Wikipedia tells me what the letter says, but he gets a letter from his daughter. And then number 2, he decides to stop being a ninja, which his pupil, Okasa, I always want to say Osaka, but that's a place, not a person's name. Mm-hmm. It might be a person's name too, but it's definitely a place. Okasa finds this dishonorable and has to kill him because they're a part of a group called I think they call them a sect, but they basically said it's like a dojo. Like there's all these different like dojos, which I'd love to get into later. But to become the master, you have to kill the old master.
Yeah. I like the idea already of like dojos competing dojos,
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's like I don't know if you've seen the movie The Warriors. It's this 1970s like New York movie where this gang has to get home to like the Bronx or whatever, and it has to go through like every single gang, and all the gangs have like a thing. Like this gang is like the punk, like the cool gang. This gang is like this, like they all like, it might as well be like if the movie had continued on forever, then it would be like this gang, they're clowns. This gang, they're robots. Like it would have just gone on forever. So yeah, like dojos versus dojos. I'm already in the headspace. I'm there.
It's great. So part of the system, and I don't think this is true. I think this is part of the fictionalized thing, is that to become the master of a dojo, you have to kill the previous master. Although there seems to be other ways to
kind
succeed.
Of a Highlander type situation.
It is. It seems like a bad system. But there's allusions to the fact that there are other ways that you can become a master without having to like kill your teacher and mentor.
Rent out a new space.
Well, yeah, I guess start a new dojo.
Build a new building. Yeah.
So, those are kind of like sorry, I didn't even get to the part where he goes to America. He's like the main character, but so McAllister goes to America and ends up in this small town because I think he's number one trying to find his daughter. That's like the main thrust of the show. But number 2, he's trying not to get killed by Okasa. And he meets this kid, Max. And Max wants to learn to be a ninja. And Okasa's like, you're too emotional. So they've got that back and forth where he's like, he's very like stoic and he's a ninja, whatever. Like, you get it. He's serious old man.
I'm already seeing some Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi type vibes.
Totally.
It is potential that George Lucas stole from this.
Who knows? Maybe.
Because, like, if anything, like them going around in a little space cruiser, how was that any different than Max and this ninja master, John Peter McAllister, driving around in a van? You know, how is that any different?
And so something. Max something with the plot. And, you know, it's episode one shit. You've all seen television shows where, like, he's like, no, I can't train you. You're too emotional. And he's like, and then he ends up where Max is standing up for some people in the town and he ends up getting into some trouble. And the master is like, saves him from that trouble. And then it's like, you got a good heart. I'll train you. And so then he decides to train him. I was going to say hijinks ensue, but like adventure ensues. Those are the main beats. There's some other details that I'd love to get into later where the bones of this, I think, have a lot. But this show sounds rad. So the main issue is finding the daughter chased by Okasa. That's the main thing.
For one season and 13 episodes, I can already see there is so much lore. Like, there is an unbelievable amount of just hitting the ground running with lore.
And in our
for
terms,
example,
potential.
I was zipping past, looking, just kind of like skimming this Wikipedia, and the first thing I saw is Timothy Van Patten as Max Keller has a pet hamster, or possibly a gerbil.
What? I missed that.
Yeah,
did you get to the part where they have all the where?
No, I'm looking at the section that is just dedicated to the cast and characters, and there are some paragraphs written here.
Oh, keep going. I mean, I didn't read that one, but if
what I'm saying, like, someone is trying to get this show rebooted, and Meet the Fockers 2 at fockedup@gmail.com. Go ahead and reach out to us, because listen, we have an idea that we're not going to talk about on air, but it's for a kind of a secret comic book that's not so secret.
The slightly secret comic book. There's a whole section called Ninjutsu Mythology in The Master. These people did their research. Like, there's a whole section that's basically about how that the show is a somewhat faithful adaptation of the actual spiritual philosophy of ninjas. Like, apparently the show actually does a good job of explaining how ninjas worked in the real world. And there's a whole section about it. There is, like we said before, several sects. Never gonna sound right, huh? Sects, you
got it. Sex.
You know Joe Biden on the campaign trail, when they asked him how many genders there were, he said, well, I mean, at least 3.
He did?
What a cool fucking response. Yeah,
that's
at least 3.
That is said because some aide was like waving him down off camera.
Don't
and,
say
like,
2.
like just being like, don't say 2, like, do not say 2, wrote it down. He was just like, not 2, not 1, at least 3.
He's like, I know it's not 1. I thought it was 2, but this aide is really telling me the answer is not 2. At least
I don't
3.
get it. Anyway.
It's a really funny comment by President-elect Joe Biden. Anyway,
President-elect.
Allegedly. So they're also called houses. That's way easier. Okay, so there's these houses. Our main characters are in the butterfly house, which like represents the human soul or something. There's only one other character that we meet in a different house, but it's the snake house. And he is described as an anarcho-nihilist who uses a fictional ninja history to justify committing crimes.
Man, is this show cool as hell?
Is that what I'm learning right now?
Cool. Is that this show is like cool as hell?
So obviously we have a series. Okay, one of the problems is they made all of the villains, or they used to have a bunch of different villains, right? But then they pared it down to just Okasa, because they're like, look, perhaps out of fear that giving McAllister a constant stream of Asian ninja adversaries, as opposed to just Okasa, whose business with the master is personal, would be seen as racist. Which, I agree. I could see. I mean, you're kind of whitewashing ninjas to start. So the whole him being American and white is like not great. So I get that. But if we just change that initial thing and be like, maybe, I don't know, I don't care about the World War II part. So, or maybe it's set later in the future. I don't care. He doesn't need to be American, right? Because the whole premise is that he meets this woman, I think her name's Laura Kennedy, has an affair with her for like 2 months. She dips back to America, has their kid, whose name I forgot, Terry, maybe? Terry. It is Terry McAllister. So has Terry, and then Terry writes a mysterious letter in the future. So he does not need to be American at all. So I'm going to cut that for that. And also I think there should be way more villains. And I think over seasons we can introduce these different houses and slowly build out this lore of all the different dynamics back in Japan that he left behind. Mysterious past is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to give you some time. I've talked long explaining the premise. There's a couple other things that I really love, but I'm going to... What are you feeling?
So I'm feeling that this show is perfect.
Yeah, just a reboot, obviously. We don't need to change it. We just need to do it again.
I think I am seeing some news down here from Mystery Science Theater 3000 did some sort of thing with them, as well as This Movie Sucks also did something with them. So, I'm thinking that that's, not a good indicator of kind of what we got going on here.
I'm saying the premise is good.
Yeah, I'm saying the bones here are great. I can't really speak for the show itself, but yeah, man, I'm drowning in lore right now. And I gotta say I love that because, this show's ahead of its time. That's the first thing I'm going to say about this.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but man, every single show now has to have like so much lore,
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't think that Star Wars knew that that's why people liked it so much, or I don't know, Lord of the Rings, whatever. Maybe that guy was a lore machine, so maybe not. Maybe he actually knew. But so there's like so much backstory. So like one, I would say if I'm going to have just one sort of thing happen is maybe divvy out the lore a bit more,
spread this out.
Yeah, don't have it all happen in one episode where it's kind of like an exposition dump. And then immediately go into just kind of little adventures like I'm saying here. Episode 2, the premise of that one is a ninja-guarded crime lord mistakes Max and McAllister for bodyguards hired by a nightclub owner the crime lord is trying to control.
Yeah, okay, there's a lot of...
That's cool. That's cool as hell, but I'm thinking that maybe it could benefit from, some sort of long-form villain and slash or... Because, I mean, like, this is a hot property that NBC owns. That is the second thing I'll say. Because people are getting, because history moves in little waves, people are getting back into the 90s era, like Xena Warrior Princess and Hercules, where it's just these... It's just two shows of a Xena Warrior Princess and a Hercules just going from town to town, solving little problems and
like westerns,
like little western adventures. And the reason I say this is because of that big fat cultural juggernaut right now in the current times, which is The Mandalorian.
King? Of course,
exactly. That
is a western.
It is a western, but also it is, it's an episodic, like, hey, we're going to have a little adventure here, a little adventure there, and there's a general theme keeping us together.
Right.
So, yeah, this show for 2 ways is ahead of its time.
Well, I think we need to, one thing about the lore is I think it would be good, because you mentioned the mob boss, there's also FBI agents, I think there's some mafia stuff in here, there's a lot of cops, there's a lot of FBI. I think we need to tighten up the lore a little bit. I think maybe there's a couple silly episodes. I think we need to maybe pare it down and connect these things a little bit more. Like maybe the FBI is very aware of the crime. Yeah, you know The Wire. Have you seen The Wire yet?
Of course I've seen The Wire. You have to.
Well, okay, good. So anyway, so you know how in The Wire you've got season 2 and you meet the importers and the Greek, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, this seems super random, but the more you watch the show, it's like, no. All of these people like know each other and are connected in this way, or also like Breaking Bad, the 2 shows I ever talk about, right?
Exactly.
You've got Gus and you've got the guys from season 1 and 2. And at first, it's just like these are 2 unrelated things, but it's like, no, this is a whole network of crime, right? So I think pare it down a little bit more, make it more concise, not less lore, but just tighten it up a little bit. We don't need all this. You know, there's one episode.
Have an interconnectivity.
And less villains. Like for example,
so
one
like
episode
the mob boss is also a ninja.
No,
I'm
like
saying from the Snake House, you know,
or he works with them.
All of a sudden, it's just like they're trying to take him down, and he is just like, "Man, you guys don't know shit." And then he just whips out some snake moves.
Yeah, with snake style or something. So there's an episode 8, where they have to steal the crown jewels of England. Cut. I'm gonna say cut that a whole episode. Nope, not doing that one. But I want to draw you to episode 9. Episode 9 is where I think we got the meat. Okay?
Oh, man. Right towards the end, too.
Okasa, the villain, has a female pupil. Now, you know that is going to turn out to be the daughter that they've been looking for.
Oh.
100%. There's no... Okay. There's another...
So that's not revealed.
No, that is not the premise of the show. That does not happen in the television show.
Okay.
Yeah. No, this is the doctoring that I'm saying. So they're looking for Terry. They never see her except for in photographs. And McAllister's never actually met her, right? But they're searching around the country trying to find her, and she is somewhat high profile because 2 different times they meet people who are impersonating her. They're like FBI agents who are impersonating her to try to get information from like local crime people. So it's like, okay, so Terry McAllister like is someone, right? Like she's got something going on. And there's a line about her mom, Laura Kennedy, right? Okay, let me give you this line. So
I don't think we're doing a strip doctor anymore. I think you're just geeking out about this show now.
I am, but also the certain things this is headcanon. So
okay.
So Terry's mother...
For a show you have read descriptors of.
Yes, exactly. So it's implied that McAllister might still be in love with Laura, who is Terry's mom, right? McAllister asks Gina, who's the FBI agent, curious about Terry's mother, in a way that suggests he still has some interest in the mother of his daughter, even though, quote, nobody could live with Laura Kennedy for long, and believes her to be alive. So all McAllister knows is he knew this woman for 2 months. They had some kind of, love affair. And then she dipped off back to America, had this kid. Obviously, what I'm saying is episode 9, maybe even episode 4, we meet Okasa and this female pupil, right? Turns out, some point in the season, that is Terry, right? That seems obvious. But also throughout the series, I'm talking season 2, maybe season 3, we find out Laura Kennedy, also a trained assassin. So he loves Laura. I don't want it to be implied. I want it to be like he loves this woman and she broke his heart. And then he has to grapple with the fact that she was a plant the whole time. She came to Japan to seduce him or whatever. Or I don't know, maybe they felt, I don't know, something. And she was also a trained assassin. She was a spy maybe for one of the different houses and was trying to spy on McAllister. And then ends up having a kid and raises that child in the ninja ways. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think that's a great idea. Here's the problem with that. I wasn't listening to a word that you just said because I was reading the plot for episode 10, which just says Max and McAllister take a break from the search for Terry to help out McAllister's to help out a friend of McAllister's, a bumbling PI based in Hawaii who is on a quest for a legendary tiger made of gold. Unfortunately, a Bond-like crime lord with a penchant for karate is also interested in the Java tiger.
Well, Zach, NBC doesn't call me for good shows.
Here's the thing.
There's some stinkers in here.
That right there is the backdoor pilot for an amazing show.
Yeah, that's a different show. That's like a completely different show.
I think they just accidentally made that's the one thing I like that, because on top of lore, you have to set the stage for the universe with which this show sets in. No. Okay. I'm not doing a shared universe.
I'm this one show is the show.
In doing shows that are like Xena or are like Hercules, you have to get this general sense that the characters they meet are plausible because the world that they live in is so bonkers. And I like that in this episode, the Java Tiger, McAllister is helping out a bumbling PI who they're looking for a tiger made out of gold called the Java Tiger, which is hilarious. And unfortunately, a Bond-like crime lord with a penchant for karate is also interested in the Java tiger.
Yeah, there's a whole world of crime in this show.
Exactly. And like I love that because I'm seeing up here, I keep seeing the word Arab, which I am not that akin to. I don't like that.
We should really cut all the terrorism stuff.
Yeah, I don't like that very much. I think that we really have to set away from that, you know.
Yeah, there's terrorists, there's Arab terrorists.
Jack Bauer in 24 really put the pin in that one. So I think we're good.
In that war.
Yeah, but I love this idea of a Bond-like villain crime lord with a penchant for karate. That is the funniest sentence to just like a descriptor of a person. And I think with more villains like that, it would just set the stage for like the more people you run into, it's like, oh yeah, this doesn't take place in our world. This doesn't take place in Earth 414 or whatever. This is a different Earth where shit like this just kind of goes down. And
that's why I'm suggesting we pin some of this lore down. We pin some of this down a little bit and make I'm fine with the Java Tiger, but just like, all right, how do we fit this into this like web of criminals that we've been introduced over the show? Because they do, like with the Crown Jewels of England, it's like you guys kind of ping around a lot. You just sort of jump.
Yeah, that's one because
around.
It goes. Yeah, we go from England to Washington. In episode 10, it says base in Hawaii, so I'm assuming that they're in Hawaii.
In Hawaii, yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean by pare down. We really need to sort of like, let's rein it in. Like, they got a lot of good stuff here. Let's rein it in a little bit.
Obviously, you know, at some point we can go to... I like this notion, because the one thing that we know from this show, at the very least, is that they are... limited to driving around in this van.
Which is funny
because they're bipping and bopping around. Like they are
moving
all over the place. Like this, they go, and for what? You know, I guess they're
trying to find the daughter.
They're trying to find the daughter from Las Vegas to New Orleans within the next couple episodes.
And it's kind of, one of the things, again, this show did get canceled. The writers, God bless them, they only had 13 episodes. In 2 different episodes, episode 6 and episode 11, maybe? I don't know. In 2 different episodes, they get tricked by a reporter or by a person who is like using Terry McAllister's name, and it's not really her name. And it's like, guys, we only had 13 episodes. You did that twice? Like they couldn't figure out. I mean, maybe you don't need 13 reasons, but like at least 12
reasons why,
13 reasons why. 13 reasons why you were looking for Terry McAllister. Like basically, I think every episode they need a hot tip that's like, oh, I think Terry might be here. She also can fly a helicopter, I think, and she was a model at one point. But anyway,
yeah.
So they need that's I think the premise of how they get to these places is they get tips. From people, but it's like you couldn't think of 12 tips. You even got one of them. You guys took a break from the search, so 11 reasons why you'd need to go to a city. Anyway,
Yeah.
And I mean, the show got canceled.
And obviously, they're zipping away. Like, it's 1984, so they must just be looking in phone books.
Right,
for
who
different Terry McAllisters.
It's a small town kid and a man who's lived in Japan for 40 years. Like, how do you guys know anyone?
Yeah, I like this. I think one thing that I really want to see from this show, when it's rebooted by us, I want to see, as I said, I want to see more of this fun world building. Because one thing that I really can't stand is, when there's a lot of shows that just are either too lazy or they just like, they want the notion of like fantastic things happening in our world. And, like that's not going to happen. So for example, in like the Marvel movies, like that is like kind of happening in our world. And like, the regular people are regular people like us. And
sure.
But I like this notion where this does not take place in our timeline. This takes place in one where there are dojos that have, there's one of the butterfly and one of the snake, and there's crime lords, and it doesn't play off of things that we're going through right now, but just almost like a more like fantastical, almost pre-Mad Max version of our universe where things are just kind of wonky.
Yeah. Hyper real.
I want a Quentin Tarantino hyper real type world. Hyper real. And
I think this is good. I don't even think we need to have our secret meeting about our secret comic book, because this is it. This is it. It is both our fix and also our secret comic book.
Yeah, this is
for this show.
I mean, it's so
so good.
What was happening in 1984? This is some amazing stuff.
I can't believe it got canceled. Literally, even in the cancellation part of the article, they're like, yeah, people were loving this shit right now. Like, people were like, all ninja stuff. Everybody was action movies. They were way into it. It just got canceled. It's like,
here's what I'm thinking about that. I think that the reason it got canceled was because the budget for this show was way overblown. There is no chance that they kept a budget on this show.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of explosions and car flips.
Several American like major cities. That's like shutting down traffic. That's flying the whole cast and crew out just for some rinky-dink little. I mean, I'm assuming.
I don't think that's how television works.
I'm at least assuming in episode 8, like with the Crown Jewels of England, they would have had to build a set of where the Crown Jewels are. They're not going to be filming on a back lot, and then some character's going to walk in and go, "I got me the jewels."
Yeah, it's fair. I don't know, but yeah. Again, there's something about this show that isn't good. Although it did seem to have whatever true believer wrote this long article.
This person is a true believer.
Well, what I'm saying is that they made it very clear that it has a lot of DVD releases, so I can get my hands. There's a DVD and Blu-ray under license from
on Blu-ray even.
Blu-ray, yeah, for the entire series. Well, because it was chopped up into 7 different movies, so the 13 episodes were made into 7 movies, which were just 2 episodes put together.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is what was on Mystery Science Theater.
I like the Ninja Master, and I like that it goes to Ninja Master 2, Return of the Ninja Master, Ninja, The Shadows Kill, Ninja, Warrior of the Night, The Ninja Strikes, and the last one's just The Ninja Man.
Yeah, the thing is, it's not a good show, which is why we're here. There were obviously some bad decisions made along the way, which is why they called us in. But I probably will be buying the DVDs.
I will at the very least find that, and if we can find an action figure for that, we'll put it right next to the Mr. Smith goes to the jungle puzzle that you got.
The Mr. Smith sliding puzzle. Anyway, I think we're good, and I'll send this off to my friends at NBC.
Yeah.